this was really one of the ones I really enjoyed the most. Like these interviews are really cool for me personally as well because talking to successful traders, talking to people like you, for me, it's also quite a good way to spend a day.
Afternoon.
So yeah, man. Thanks for being here. Hello everyone and welcome to today's interview with our FTMO trader. Today we have Daniel from the UK, who's been trading with us since 2020, and over the last few years he managed to accumulate around $180,000 in rewards from us. We'll go through his current strategy he applies on gold and DAX, and we'll discuss his approach to self-development as well. Sit back and enjoy the interview. Hello everyone, welcome to today's interview with one of our FTMO traders, and today we're having Dan from the UK. Hi Dan.
Hi guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, for those of you who might be watching us for the first time, FTMO is a modern prop trading firm, and we're looking for traders who get to pass our evaluation process and get an access to our demo FTMO account with up to $200,000, and then they get to keep an 80% or up to 90% of reward. So, Dan here, you've been with us for a long time, since 2020. In those past years, I've seen that you've been quite successful. In rewards, you received around $180,000. But before we get to that, can you give us a little bit of an intro to your trading background? So how did it start?
Yeah, again, man, that sounds crazy to say $180,000. That was like a dream at one point. But nice to meet everyone. My name is Dan. I'm Dan Chung from the UK, and I kind of got into trading, I'd say like 12 or 13 years ago. Time's kind of flying, and I think I always like to start this conversation by just saying like why I got into trading, because I think that's the real big difference between traders who make it and don't, is just the why factor, because trading is such a fight like of you versus you. So long story short was back, I didn't come from much. Mum working 3 jobs to make it happen, a single mum and only child family. And when I was in university, I was in this little bit of a rut of thinking to myself, okay, I'm in overdraft, I have no money, I'm relying on student finance, I pretty much have no skill set, not real much motivation, and not really sure where I'm going in life as such to speak. And then a lot of things happened in family and everything will just kind of compile down in all one go. And I think everyone goes through, like everyone has problems, right? If you're not in a problem, solving a problem, going into a problem, it's just how you manage that problem. And at that time, that problem felt like the world was ending for me. So I said, do you know what? I really need to fix everything. And the first 2 things I really wanted to fix was my physical, like my physical health. I just wanted to be fit. I was 56 kilos and I'm 183 centimeters. So pretty light for quite a tall guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that I ended up eating as much as I could, going, really budget in as much as I can, like just buying bread on sale and just eating and fixing my physical. And once I fixed my physical, I really needed to fix my financial. And I had no idea where to start. And one of the things that got me into trading, or the first introduction, is in the UK, we have these things called newspaper. So as I was in uni, I was in a placement year. And in this placement year, I was at 5 a.m. on the way to my placement year to work. And I read that a trader had spent £24,000 in a night out. And even to this day, I still think that's like, no matter how much I say that story, no matter how much money I make, I still think spending £24,000 on a night out, which is like 30,000 US, right, is ludicrous. Like you can enjoy it, I guess, maybe do it once in your lifetime, but there's so much more you could do with that $30,000.
It's quite a lot of
But
money.
yeah, but I think I think it's because my mindset is always never forget where I come from and what that 30,000 can do. That can help a family, that could set up an investment, it could be scholarships. There's just so many different things you can do with it. But that was the first introduction of it. And believe it or not, I guess now looking back on the journey, is that planted a seed in my head and planted the seed of everything to grow. So as I kind of got into that period and I thought, trading was there, and I carried on with my engineering degree, there was one point which was I'd say one of the lowest point is, £50 in, I had £50 left to my name, like, which was like what, 70 US dollars, but that was not even 70 US, that was my money. Like that was already overdraft. So I was already at negative, minus
Mm-hmm.
more negative. My mum wasn't too well. We had like family issues, and every issue you had, it just felt like when it rained, it poured and everything came to it. So I said to myself, And I think that people change in three steps, right? You either change when you're really sick of it, you change when you've had enough, or you change with motivation. But when you change with motivation, it doesn't really normally stick. Why? Because the discipline is not there and your why is not strong enough, which goes back to what I said at the very start, like what is the why? But because I was so sick of who I was and where I was in life, and I was like, I surely something, I could do something, right? Like there's something I can do to change. And I just thought trading could be the way. And the only reason why I thought on it, and I guess it was kind of an interesting thought process, was I thought if I wanted to make money, I need to go into an industry with money, right? Like, of course, now I'm older, you can make money, do anything. You can sell water, make money, sell salt, make money. You can open a business, anything. You could do podcasts, make money. But, I wasn't as mature or as educated as such to speak. And I thought, let's get into finance because that's where money is money. And then from there is when I was around 23, 24, I got my first job as a broker. And in the broker is when, if, for those who don't know what broker is, you work in like an FX broker or a stock broker, and you kind of just account managing clients who trade with from retail to large to IVs to money managers. And you just manage their portfolio, make sure that they're having a good relationship with the company. And there is where everything changed. Like I learned that it was insane. Like people can make money through trading, the amount of money that makes through trading, the people who lose money in trading, the whole system in trading, the back end, the B book, the millions, the thousands, the losses from retail when it's possible. But I think the biggest takeaway was it was possible. And the two stories that really stuck with me during my time in that brokerage was, I don't know if you're aware of the Euro Swiss franc floor. This was like back in 2012 or
2019, I
something.
think. No, no, before. Yeah, you
Well,
mean the Black Swan event when it plummeted.
yeah. So that was before 19. That would have been like probably
2015,
5 years
I
before,
think. Yeah,
somewhere around there,
sounds about
exactly that.
right. Yeah.
So long story short was the euro and the Swiss franc used to have an agreement for a pegged floor, and then that collapsed, which then dropped 1,000 pips in 24 hours. And within that 24 hours, I saw someone turn $10,000 into 2.5 million. And this was in a time where you had leverage of up to like 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 500. You didn't have the same regulations as you do now, right? In the UK, it's like 1 to 30 or 1 to 100 or so. And that was just mind-boggling. And then watching people withdraw that, watching people blow their accounts. He had like 1 million, and then he was just long on those positions, and it wiped all of his profits. So think about it, $1 million lost overnight. But on the flip side, someone else made 2.5 million overnight. And then it just made me really understand that there's a possibility here. So how I got into trading was really one of my clients. So one of my clients actually was a trader at that time, and he made more in 2 days. And watching him consistently in 2 days that I could ever imagine I would make in my lifetime or whatever it may be. And so from there, I asked him, built up a relationship, and then I started asking him, like, "Hey, man, like, do you know what? We've kind of got to know each other. It's been about 6 months or so. I was wondering if he could teach me some trading." I knew the basics, of course, because as a broker, you had to know the basics. You had to know, the terms, the everything. But trading is a
Support,
whole different game. Like,
resistance. Yeah.
yeah. And even if you know how to click a button, doesn't mean you can make money, right? So I asked him, and ironically, he agreed to it. So I spent a lot of time learning from him, a lot of time learning the basics from him. But this inevitably, again, because my journey is now from like, the learning and now to experience, and I can look back on myself, is that even though it worked for him, it didn't necessarily mean it worked for me. Not only that as well, one of the hardest things is I had to go through it, of course, but what he could see and what he could understand doesn't mean I could see and I could understand. I very, very distinctively remember there was a trade he took, and I was the opposite position to him. And he made $64,000, and I lost $5 because I was obviously only risking $5 or $10 at the time. But the point of is like, number one, I was against him. Number two, he taught me exactly the same strategy, but I could not see what he could see. Number three, he won, I lost. And number four, he was more consistent and he had more money. And also number five, we were just in different positions. So it took me around like 3 to 4 years to really make his strategy work. And around the second year or so, we lost a little bit of contact. Well, to be honest, I was just focused. I was laser focused on mine, and I was asking him, but he was giving me the same answers. So it wasn't really anything to do with him, but it was everything to do with me. It was like, it could be from either my interpretation or my understanding of the markets or just my market experience, market maturity, not doing enough back testing, because he would have done like 5 or 10 years worth of back testing as opposed to I've just been in this for 1 year. So there's no way I was going to make it work, as such to speak. So that 4 years was a real big battle of me versus me, of loading up the account of, but this is before prop firms, by the way. So £500, £1,000, and the worst one was £3,000, which is pretty much everything I saved up for like 3, 4, 5 months, or however many months it took, and then to trade it a long time and then blow it all in one day, and you name it, I've done it. And but it really built my character. And then from the fourth year was when I started to really see some consistency, and then fifth and sixth was a lot better, and started to see a lot of consistency within the fifth and sixth, and the seventh year was when I really started to make good income from it. And then that kind of coincides with when I came into prop firm. So I think you said 2020. I think we just started. This was when all you had different rules. No one really knew what prop firms were. Was it real? Like, how does
Yeah.
it make sense?
Back in
So
the old days when no one knew, like, am I gonna get paid out? How is this real? Yeah.
right. And then you had to understand all the rules, and like it was really confusing. Even though it's not confusing, it just takes time to understand it. And then yeah, I kind of took my journey into prop firms. I think I just tried one in 2020, and then I started really in like 2022 or 2023, and then I literally had like a full circle. And then I felt like from profitable trading on my personal account, I failed with FTMO a lot, to the point where I remember the first year I was trying properly in like 23 or 22. I had a $21,000 payout, and I still didn't request it. I literally just blew that account and blew the trader. And then from there, I took a good 6 month break,
Mm.
and then stopped from there. And think about it, like that was like a 6 to 8 months with no payouts. And then since then, I've obviously been trading. And then last month alone, I did 91,000 with FTMO, and it was crazy. Like it's now just compounded and trading amongst other props, and FTMO is obviously number one. It's gone full circle because I wouldn't trade anywhere else at the moment because, like we were saying before, like, am I going to get paid? I just want to stay somewhere I can get paid. So yeah, and then that's kind of been the journey so far, and trading at the moment only with FTMO and maybe one or two others, and just consistently withdrawing payouts and just keeping my life simple and not stressful.
All right. Well, I think it's really important to emphasize on what you were, saying like a minute ago about the period when you were facing, these losses, when pretty much all you had saved, you blew it out in your trading account. Because I think this is, where, a lot of people will find themselves now. And I think it's
Yeah,
important to understand that you just cannot be successful in trading without this period. Like, well, if this is what's happening right now, quite possibly, it's okay. It just has to happen. And you just, got to go through it.
yeah. So I think one of the things is I always try to internalize it. Like in business, and that's why one of my staff like generally respect me the most, is because I'm so accountable. And in trading, it's very much a you versus you journey. Like everyone who's watching is intelligent, because you're into trading, like, and you understand my language, whether it's your second language, first language, whatever. You're intelligent. You don't believe anyone else. You are intelligent. But the learning trading is not difficult. Like you said, support resistance, that's not difficult. Moving averages, it's just algorithmically just broken down. You have your ticket high, ticket low, you have your buys. Like it's not difficult to learn. It's textbook, right? And if it's
Mm-hmm.
textbook, it means you can learn it. Correct. Like if, for example, if you really wanted to understand how a pen works, you understand that there's lead, you could press it down, there's an ink, you can understand it. It would just take you a year or less, some period of time you would learn it. The hardest part is understanding yourself. So if you can learn strategy, you learn the confluences, you learn your TikToks, you learn exactly when to take a trade, what to do, exactly that. Like it's just blueprint. Like this is the guideline, do it. Everyone can do it. But why do people not do it? And that's because there's an internal battle within. So for example, one of the best analogies I like to say is everyone can be healthy and be in shape, but you choose not to because that's a self-choice. Like look, I'm not here to judge. If you want to be out of shape and be really obese, great. If you want to be skinny, great. If it's not your priority, great. That's your choice, your life. No one is here to judge other than God. However, you still have control over that. And the trading is exactly the same thing. You understand how to trade. You understand there's a strategy you can follow. There is a profitability to the market. Like people go, oh, no one makes money in the markets. Okay, if no one makes money in the market, what do banks do? What do hedge funds do? What do proprietary trading firms do? Like, how do you think money is exchanged? Like foreign exchange, just like regardless of the OTC. If I was to go from England to Prague, where do I get my money? Where's the spread? Where's the difference? Is that price always the same? Does it fluctuate? If I was educated enough, could I swap my money at the right time and then make money? So the point is you can make money in the markets. It's just you need to understand how you can learn to make money in the markets, which goes back to Those 4 years I struggled, not because of the strategy, but because of me. I never came from money, so therefore money was an emotion. I never knew, like, £100 meant a lot to me, so therefore whenever time I was in profit, that would also scarcity, because you were scared to lose it, you were also scared to make it. You would hold losses longer because you would think, hey, it would come back, hey, this could happen, it's come back before. And then you don't know how to deal with loss, because guess what, you've never lost that much in a go anyway.
Hmm.
Same thing when you're running. Like, the one of my worst trading periods ever, and I still use this story to this day, and I've lost a lot more money now as I'm older and more successful, me versus me type, is that I literally spent 3 months building this account up. I can't even remember what it was now. It's so long ago. I think I started with like £500, and my goal was just £5 a day, literally just £5, because I read the book Darren Hardy, Compound Effect, and it's not about like the money, it's about the skill, right? So I said, look, let's just do £5. If I can make £5 a day, I've traded before, the market moves, I just want $5, £5. That's it. That's what I want. And if I could do that and compound over 3 months' time, or not even 3 months, I just said as long as I could. And I got to the 3 month mark, and then that account became $3,000 or $4,000 more. Then all it took was a few very bad days to blow absolutely everything. And if you like, that ruined me for like 3, 4 months and just walking away from the markets. But it gave me a real strong confidence that it could work. But during that time, it was just, you were so angry at yourself, so frustrated at yourself, so I don't even know where the emotions can go. Like, you just hand in your head, you just like, it's just like, what has happened? And it's just like breaking out in cold sweats, and you're just thinking, it's just crazy to think back on it. Because if you can overcome that, obviously now look where I am in life. But it's just incredibly exhausting, frustrating, and tiring, because it's like the answer is there, but I keep simply breaking it myself, and I'm the one self-sabotaging. I'm the problem. I'm the obstacle. I'm the one that stops myself from becoming that person. I'm the one that's stopping me from being profitable, which is kind of the same. I did the same thing when I came into prop firms. Why? Because I was consistently making good money with my own personal account. But the problem with prop firms that I had was I was just not respecting prop firms. Right?
Hmm.
An FTMO challenge is like €500, which is insane. Like €500 for $100,000 account. Suddenly, for a person who barely has €500 in my own bank account to trade with 100,000, that's already a psychological mess. Then I suddenly have it, like, I going back saying I had the $21,000 payout. I'm thinking, let's get this to 100. Let's get this to, like, you just have this like crazy amount of greed to try and make as much as you can, and it just again goes back to the start of all of that, is the self-sabotage, the self-reflection. And you just have to come to terms with, okay, what can hold you down, what can solve your problems, and what can bring you back. For me, it was $5. Respect your $5, respect your small amount of money, and there in time your money will come back to you, and you will be earning it. Because Hermosi's saying, which I love nowadays, is if you're not getting the results you thought you would get, it just means you're not as good as you think you are. So yeah, that's a little bit of a
Hmm.
summary.
Great. Yeah, I love it. Just have a few points about that. I think it's super important that what you mentioned is that with trading, uh, all the issues, all the mistakes, you are the one responsible for it, no one else. Like with other businesses,
Yeah.
other jobs, you can say, okay, well, this contractor didn't deliver on time, or well, my boss is a dick, he doesn't recognize me, whatever. You can always find these excuses. But in trading, I mean, if you screw up, if you lose your money, like you have absolutely no one to blame but yourself. And I think
You can't say the market's a dick.
yeah, because trading really makes you just face the reality, like no, you really cannot find any excuse, you can't blame anyone else, it's just you. And I think that's actually pretty good about trading. It kind of teach you to self reflect, and take your responsibility for your actions.
Yeah, facts. And I think that one of the big things that is made is that you end up really understanding that control the controllable, don't focus on the uncontrollable. The market's always right. Like, it's not just that my boss is a dick. You can't just sit there and say the market's a dick the whole time. Like, the market's wrong, I'm right, I'm right. Well, if you're right, then make money. And I think that, this is one of the biggest realizations of trading, that if anyone can get over, is that we are taught, especially if you're an athlete or if you're into, is the more work you put in, is the more you would get into closer to your results, if that makes sense, right? So, if you eat healthy, you stay consistent with it. If you go to the gym, you work out harder, you push more. If you read your books, read 10 more pages, just the more you do, is the faster you would get your results, or the more results you would get, right? Like, especially as athletes, right? To turn up every day, show up every day. But trading is very much the opposite. And also, trading is like, we associate losing money or losing a trade associated as a failure or a loss. hence the word losing money is already a loss.
Mm.
But that is not the case. It's actually the quite opposite. Is did you stick to your rules? If the rules were correct and your strategy was right and everything is there, that's just the edge, you know? And if that's part of the edge, you have to follow through with that process. And also when you get to, you know, roll it back, and I said, when you learn the basics and the fundamentals of trading, like, you know, the support resistance, the fundamentals, the macros, the micros, the technicals, the fundamentals, the mentals, once you learn all of that, it's just utterly important to understand, like, hey, it is what it is. I need to spend less time at the charts, less time trying to force trades, less time doing things I shouldn't be doing, and just focus at this period that I know will work. Just like a basketball game. If I go into the game and I miss a shot, does it matter? No. What matters is the result at the end of the game. Like I might hit 3 3-pointers and miss 2 of them, and free throws get 5 layups, but all of those will compound. But then, yes, that might have got 100 points. I might have lost 50 points. I'm still up 50 as a compounded effect, if that makes sense. And yeah, it's really important to kind of really self-reflect, really self-be accountable, and just understand it's a you versus you battle. That's really, really, really important. Really important.
Also, one thing I kind of battled with during trading is I think you really gotta have the healthy balance of, on one thing, you gotta have certain tolerance for risk if you want to be a trader, but at the same time, you gotta respect the money enough, because if you will not have the tolerance for risk, then once you're gonna go in a loss and you'll see that you're like a couple $100 down, you'll be like, oh my god, I can't handle this, and you're just gonna close it. But at the same time,
Yeah.
I've been there in situations where you kind of stop respecting the money there. You just see numbers on the screen, and you start getting hazy with it, and you kind of stop caring about the money, and you slowly like lose the respect for that. So I think you just gotta have the healthy balance, like on one end be tolerant for some risk, and at the other end you still gotta respect your money
Yeah.
enough to be successful.
Yeah, it's a really hard balance, because it's like you can't not risk, because if you don't risk, you won't make any money. But you can't over risk, because then you could put more in. Then when you're making money, you got to be careful with how much you make and then respect you make. It's like a constant like
Yeah.
putting back and forth, just to kind of get the right answer for yourself, as such to speak. But yeah, man, trading is still the best thing in the world. You just click a few buttons and yeah, it is, right. It's so crazy. Like if you fundamentally, I've been thinking about it because last month was wild for me, and I just think, like, really and truly, yes, I made that, and it was 10 years or 12 years or however many years now. I've lost counting, to build up to make that much money in 1 month. But all I did was just press MT5 on my
Yeah,
phone, and I've made like 200 grand in a month.
exactly. Like, of course, there's like tons of work and thousands of hours behind that, but actually, physically, what do you really do? You click like buy, and that's it. Yeah, it's crazy to think about it. All right, well
Yeah,
then,
mate.
thank you for the introduction, and well, let's move on to the second part of our interview. All right, so here we are in the strategy part. Dan actually prepared sort of a blueprint for us. So yeah, go ahead, mate. Show us how you trade.
So I kind of always think that you can't manage what you don't measure. You can't measure what you don't manage. And like, for example, when we were talking about losses and stuff earlier, there's just so many things going through, and like it's overwhelming, right? Like I'm too greedy, I'm overtrading, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and it's all great, but it's kind of pointless unless you're writing everything down and really trying to review yourself and actually trying to improve. So even here, like I wrote down like FTMO, I wrote FTMO secrets, but like how to kind of really manage it, how to make sure that I bring my losses down. And I found like a lot of really interesting facts about my trading. And one of the biggest things is like it all compounded in the last month, even though we did 180K with FTMO last month in when was it? Literally October is when I did 91,000 all in one go. But let me just I could share that my trade journal as well in a second. And I'll get that up as well at the same time. But how my kind of trading is broken down into a few simple steps. And I always think if you can't explain it, you need to keep just reviewing it until you can explain it into a very simple steps. Again, at the start of like obviously the interview, I just kind of talked about my why. I think it's really important to keep my why. It just keeps me there, it keeps me motivated, it keeps me distilled. And when you have your why, it keeps the discipline there. The motivation will never always last. And when you're tired and you know your bed's really cozy and you don't want to do certain things, the motivation will not get you out, but the discipline will. So in terms of my strategy, pretty much what I look for is the swing chart, understanding the overall direction of DAX or gold. I'm looking for the daily or 4 hours point of view. And then simply put, I'm looking for a point A to point B. And from that point A to point B, there must be an opportunity at least 3R, right? At least 3R. So meaning I can have an opportunity to get a 2R trade. And once this is confirmed, I look for a 30 minutes, 10 minutes, and 3 minutes to sync. Once they're in sync, I look for a pattern A, and then I continue from there. I look at it and then broken it down into like 4 simple points. I look for a swing to understand, then I identify point A to point B. And then what I'm really trying to do is just to think less and really breaking it down. I have a flow chart. I have it all broken down. I've got examples and everything back to back. So that's kind of a little bit of a breakdown. So if I want to show you a quick example, if I go into this tab here, can you see this tab at the moment?
Yep.
Although this has gone into a whole nother trade, which we're in at the moment. Let's see if we can find the gold short. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to use one chart to make life a little bit easier. But what we're looking here in is, if we're breaking it down into those 4 points that I had to kind of say, is that we have these, if you want to just take note, guys, is that this and this is obviously my main structure, okay? These are just simply support and resistances. People call them supply demands. People want to name them like all sorts of airy-fairy things. It doesn't really matter. It's the same thing. And all it really is where price hits this area, you're looking to see some sort of reaction. And it doesn't matter what anyone says. I always believe that, you know, proof is in the pudding. Price has hit here and it has basically boxed up, then dropped. We pulled all the way back, pulled down, pulled that into retesting this, which then became a resistance, pulled all the way down to the next one. And then simply again, look, this becomes a resistance, and then continues to drop further from there. And what I'm proving here is that these lines that I've drawn have a reaction to them, and it gives me an indication and it helps me understand the story of what the market is be telling me. Now, what's also important is you can draw lines for days, right? I could draw lines like this, I could draw lines like this, and they're all respected. Look, pull down, retest, put that. But you got to pick and choose the quality. You got to pick and choose what works best for you, and you got to pick and choose how like what you can identify and generally what kind of you can see in our markets that makes it a bit clearer for you as such to speak. So as I've identified my 2 zones, what I'm then looking for is, going back to my earlier points, is point A to point B. So from point A, if this is broken, what I am saying is that this is point A and this is point B. My terrible B, it looks like a D. And what we're saying is that as price is broken into this area, we've retested this, and then we're looking for a continuation again. Again, here we've broken, we've pulled all the way back. Of course, this didn't respect nowhere is clean, but this respect is here, which is quite nice, okay? Now that we've broken down this, we've got our first thesis, which looks great to look from point A to point B. Now we've broken into these red dotted lines, which is Tokyo high and Tokyo low. We've broken down into a little bit of a lower region, and then pulled all the way back to retest this area here. And then we're looking for an entry point on this Tokyo from point A to point B. And then we're just trying to grab the meat in the middle, where we've got our entry point here, stop loss above the previous movements that we've had, and also into the Asian range. And then your take profit, again, is above the point B. I have my take profits a little bit higher just to give it room, because there have been so many instances where traders just come here and then pulled all the way back. Of course, sometimes it can break. You know, in this scenario, it broke, but I'm not willing to risk all of my profits just for a quote unquote, I think it could break. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And that's actually quite interesting, because if I go onto here, it's like when I'm looking onto my findings here, I'm just trying to break down and understanding, like, you know, where am I maximizing my profits? You know, what really, you know, how many times did it break and then continue? If I'm looking for, okay, if we break the Tokyo low, how much of that is profitable? If we're trading in the session, how many of those are profitable? And kind of the breakdown from there as such to be. So that's kind of a bit of a breakdown of a trade that we take in the strategy. And then I'll just do, ironically, a really quick one on this one, because that's what we're literally in this trade right now, is that, again, we go back to the basics. This is like point A to point B. Now we've very much continued all the way up. And then this morning we've had our Asian session. We've had a slight pullback and a push onto the upside. Gold has been still on very high time frame on daily and 4 hour on the point of view. It is still very much higher highs and higher lows. And then it's just 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, not a line. But right now we've had that pullback from last night. We've got a simple uptrend. And then we've had a push onto the upside where we've retested Tokyo high twice. And we've pulled all the way back here. And we're looking for a continuation and an entry point and pattern A. And this is one of those ones where you can take profit here, but it looks very good to break this zone, which it has. And the point B, if I just zoom up a bit, is that I believe that price can easily push, come back, and then go higher, or it could go at that, or obviously I could just be completely wrong. And that is the three opportunities that presents itself, but I have to be okay with the loss and I have to be okay with the win, and it is what it is from there. And that's exactly pretty much it. And that's kind of my strategy in a bit of a nutshell.
All right. So, as far as I understand, you don't really apply too much importance on the time frame that you're using for the analysis. Because I saw that a lot of traders are like, okay, so I start on the 4 hour, I go to 1 hour, I go to 30 minute time frame. So here you're just good with just a single time frame, or would you use multiple of them as well?
So I do have multiple, but the thing is, I really only focus on like these three here, which is the 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 10 minutes. But what I kind of normally always already have is that if I just get up another tab right now, is that my bias is pretty much the same throughout the week. So this is another chart that I have, and this will be the daily and the 4 hours. Once I have this, I pretty much don't look at this too much on a daily basis because it doesn't change, right? It just changes once a day. So realistically, when I said earlier about where I'm looking at gold looking higher, we've already simply identified here that we've had that rejection from a support. We look really good for a continuation onto the upside, and we could look really good to retest these 4220s. And then again, earlier, which I said to you guys, is that we know that gold is doing higher highs and higher lows. This is a very, very bullish momentum. There is no reason to look for some huge sales. Of course, pullbacks are great, and we did get some great sales on them, but I'm not going to try and hold them for some huge, humongous sales. Whereas buys, I might look into holding them a little bit longer because, or like just leave a real small percentage. Because here, like right now, we've had a double top here at 44. I still think that potentially 44 is still on the book. Would it hit it? I don't know. But right now, the market is just telling you, you just got to follow what the market tells you, from point A to point B. If we break this, we're at point A to point B. If we break this line here, it's point A to point B. It's just that simple. Don't need to overcomplicate it, because if you overcomplicate it, you just give yourself more things to think about. As you have more things to think about, you have more room for error, and then with more room for error, you kind of break it from there. So yeah, and then I guess this is the FTMO accounts that I had with you guys, and it was 8.5, which is pretty sick from you guys. But that was a hell of a trading month from you guys, and just from DAX and gold as an overall. So, but yeah, that's a bit of a breakdown of the strategy and like the thought processes of how to top down and look for your trades.
Great. So I've seen that you've been seeing lots of success on gold and DAX. Would you think this same approach would be applicable to Forex as well?
Yes, yes, yes. It works. It works. It works for GPU. I used to trade everything, but again, like it goes back to what I said to you earlier. Is like you got to try and reduce the noise and reduce the thinking, right? Like, so for example, at the end of the day, I wanted to trade all of these pairs. If I trade GU, I then miss out on DAX. If I trade this, I'll miss out on that. It's better just to kind of decipher. For example, I could trade the break retest strategy. You could trade this Wyckoff. You could trade Fibonacci. You could trade everything worth. It's like all the food is great, right? But you can only eat one meal right now. You can't eat every cuisine right now. All right. So you have to decide, like, again, it goes down to your journaling. You'll find it like, what is one thing you're going to focus on? Be great at it, and then just take it from there. Because as long your goal is to make money, your goal is to have, a roof over your head, closing your back, and food on the table. Once that's met, does it really matter if someone else is making more money, or if you missed out an opportunity because you didn't learn 100 million different strategies? Just be content, be happy with what you've got, and more will come. And keep it simple. Don't overthink, don't overdo it, and get the basics right, and believe in yourself and believe in what you've created, and put effort and maximal effort into mastering one thing rather than being a jack of all.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah. Can't do anything but agree on that. Do you take the news into consideration as well?
Yes. So obviously, I kind of align with FTMO anyway. So I try to avoid news most of the time, and obviously FTMO have like no news trading, but it's only like 2 minutes either side, so it's not a big deal. But I prefer to try and close on major red newses anyway. So those emails really help because whenever you start doing those, it made my life a lot easier. Because sometimes I just forget to check Forex Factory, so I'll just kind of walk away or make sure I don't trade within that time frame. And if I kind of go back onto here in one of these and my trading confluences that I have is actually to say make sure that there is no news within 30 minutes of the trade, because if I open the trade, my average time is anywhere between 20 minutes to 2 hours. There is an opportunity my trade could sit throughout that news. And honestly, I can't control the variable and I can't control what the news outcome is. I may have an indication of what it is, then cool, I'll react to it once the market settled, but there's no point of me sitting in with it within news. I don't care what anyone says. No one can predict news. No one knows what the news is going to do. Like you, unless you've got insider information, no one knows.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as simple as that. So yeah.
Also, do you manage your trades or do you just set your take profit, set your stop loss, and then just leave it as it is?
To be honest, in my rules, I'm supposed to just set and forget, but that doesn't always happen because sometimes I'm trying to, for example, like in drawdown periods, I figured quite a lot of different things out. So, for example, in the past couple of months, I had like a lose. Basically, I lost an FTMO account that I was trading for a very long time earlier this year, and it just was not going anywhere. Then I ended up losing that funding. And that taught me a huge lesson. And then I really took my trading like really seriously again for 2 months. And that's why I was able to do 91,000 with you guys last month. And this will be my third payout. And then I'm really hoping to get scaled. And I'm really focused on getting like prime with you guys. I just think it's really cool and just kind of be prime. And then maybe one day content, inshallah. But the real review that I really had to do was just really strip back and like lower the lot sizes, lower everything, and just keep it really, just keep everything low. I don't know why that's like the answer I have, but I think the lower you have everything, the more money you will make, which sounds so backwards. Like the lower the risk, the lower the trading volume, the lower, like, do you know what I mean? But yeah, sorry, I kind of tangented off your question because that's the first thing that came to my head. I was like, yeah, FTMO has really changed the game for me. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I think everyone's been there. I think everyone's, well, I can't speak for everyone, but surely for a lot of people, the first big loss, the first blown account, it usually points to the same culprit, and that is being over leveraged and, having your positions too big. So I think that's like probably the most common issue I see with traders is that you're just, being too greedy and your positions are just too big. So
Yeah,
I agree
yeah, yeah.
100%. Last question on your trading. So, regarding
Mhm.
indicators, would you point out some of your favorite that you might use, some sort of a moving average?
Yeah, so we have a custom one. This one was custom built within my team. Then we just have a simple moving average here, which is EMA 50, and then this one's EMA. It should be 100 on this one. It's 100, yeah, 150, and that just helps me identify on uptrend. I kind of trade with the moving averages in favor. We have a Tokyo high and Tokyo low, and then last but not least as well, I have these little greens. You'll see it's kind of like graded in the background, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just literally positive sessions. Like if these sessions are coming into play, it gives me a strong indication as to keep holding on to the trade. And then if we're slowly coming outside of that range, it might be an indication. If I have anything that like I don't like about the trade, or sometimes you just start to lose the momentum or the motivation to hold. There's a lot of things that can come through with it, but the final caveat is like, okay, cool, it's outside my range. Let me just close it. Is what it is. Let me come back tomorrow. There's another trade tomorrow. There's always another day.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you then. I think this was really informative. So thanks again. And let's just take a look at your account matrix. I just want to take a moment to thank you for reaching 500,000 followers on our Instagram. Just a few years, that number would seem completely unreal. So thank you again and stay tuned because we're definitely not slowing down. Now let's take a look into the account matrix. Alright, so we find ourselves in the account matrix. Dan, this has been one of your very successful FTMO accounts. So the payout in there, the profit was about what, $51,000?
Yeah, sick, insane. Looking at it is actually pretty crazy. Yeah, I can't believe that we did that much from FTMO, and that was obviously within 1 month. And The other account we did was what was it? It was this one that we did. This one was 40K. And then as soon as I got the account back from you guys, this was much better trading because it had 42% win rate. We had this one here, which was the 51K. But yeah, what would you like me to show on this account?
Well, what does your typical win rate look like? So, uh, considering that you said you go for at least 3 to 1 reward to risk, I assume the win rate is usually lower than 50%.
Correct. Yeah. So ironically, I guess we can kind of bounce back between a few like different tabs because I guess it's actually different because we're showing a 3 instead of 1. Is my average on my what was my trades at average? My trades at average is actually so here is actually 31.45. And then if we go on to the main trading one, this was the best trading, it's like 29.1%. So I looked at my data, anything above 25% is profitable, 30% would be great, but I'm in the process of trying to increase that win rate to 40. My best period of my trading is around 60% I've seen before, but that is very rare. That's probably like 1 or 2 times a month. But yeah, win rate is something that I didn't focus on heavily too much before. I focused more on process and also the actual each individual trade at a time. But right now I am trying to focus on win rate a bit more and trying to increase it because, and again, like the exact current one I'm trading right this moment in time, my win rate is 16.5. And I think if I manage this trading a little bit better, I wouldn't be in as long of a drawdown. Drawdown was inevitable because, you know, I had 2 back-to-back really good trading weeks, sorry, 2 months and 2 really big payouts. It's not always going to be, I'm going to get a payout straight away, straight after, right? I literally felt like I was taking a trade, it would win. Now I'm the opposite. I take a trade and it's like a loss no matter what. Hence a 16% win rate. But yeah, that's the kind of win rate. Is there what else would you like to look at on the metrics tab? We'll look on this one.
Well, maybe I'll just mention. So, what you've been trading on this account, it has all been just gold and DAX, right?
Yeah, I only really trade those two, nothing else.
All right. So, well, I guess that's all we need to see. Just wanted to see how you're doing on your current FTMO account. And well, let's move on to the final part of the interview and talk a little bit about the psychology. So, psychology, as we mentioned in the beginning of the interview, like at the end of the day, it's really you against you. So,
Mhm,
learning the strategy is probably not the hardest part of the trading, but understanding yourself and working with
mhm.
yourself, that's what I'd say separates the successful ones from the not successful ones. So,
Yeah.
what was your toughest battle, you would say, when it came to trading?
Whoa. I think, do you know what? I have I don't know why, but I start with this one. This is one of the, it's completely probably something completely different, but also completely something else. Is when I made it in trading, that was a psychological battle. And I know that sounds so backwards. I have more, which we'll go into, but I hope that people can learn from this. Is that one of this, and I'll talk about the examples later. Because when I kind of made it as such to speak, and of course last month was insane, you kind of start, well, the last month was better, but like I'd say about 4 years ago, before I did prop firms, and when I got into trading, you found that consistency and you're making money. It gets to a point where you feel a little bit lost, and that loss kind of really messes you up because you don't know what to look for next. You kind of like, you're like a lost puppy in a open space, and that affects everything in life. And the reason I wanted to start with that is I'm nowadays more and more people are becoming profitable and they're getting there a lot quicker. And the biggest thing is when you get there, it's kind of like, oh well, what next, right? And not only if it's like what next, you're kind of like, what do you do? Like, is this it to life? Like, you start soul searching and like all these kind of crazy things, and it gets really, honestly, it gets a lot. And I think one of the biggest things that I learned from that is that once you kind of let go and enjoy the journey, which is the number one piece of advice I give to every single young person, so be it trading, entrepreneur, business, physique, anything, you then learn to enjoy life so much more for what it is as opposed to what you're chasing. And I know that may not be the answer of like, hey, I overtraded and I answered this and this and this. I just wanted to start with that because whatever you're looking for, and there's so many analogies, is the grass is not always greener when you get there. Not only that, it's like, let's just say right now, dream with me. Imagine you got that 100K, okay? You got it right here, right now, you got that 100K. And then what? Like nothing, like honestly, nothing changes. People say money changes people, it doesn't. It just enhances who you are. If you're a prick, you have more money to be a prick with. If you're a nice person, you've got more money to be a nice person. Here's the thing: if you had £100 or $100 right now, and you gave your mum $50, when you have a million, you will still give half of it to your mum because you did that when you had no money in the first place. So one of the hardest things was, ironically, as cliche as it is when I made it, I didn't know what to do with myself. Like that's why I indulge myself into business a lot more. I don't trade nowhere near as much. I take a lot of time off. I like really creating content as well because it helps other people, relate and leave a journey. And I think that as a man, there's 3 points. At first, you try and make your parents proud or someone proud, right? Men are always here to serve. We're not selfish. Most men are not selfish, right? Like you are to some degree, but you want respect, significance, and whatever it may be. You want to make your parents proud. In my case, I wanted to make my mum proud. Then I wanted to make myself proud. Then I had a son, alhamdulillah, I wanted to make my son proud. And each three of those then changes your whole perspective. Like trading, cool. Like, does my mum really care how much money I make? No. But does she care what I do with the money? And does she care who I become? Yes. That's more important. Then great, I achieved that. How do I become? Then great, my son. What am I going to leave behind? What is he going to see? How is he going to respect that? So the psychology side of things is just to understand you will get to where you want to go. You just have to believe in the process, enjoy the journey, and really be, stable with it. More importantly, as well, is you have to understand that everything you're trying to get to, there is a path, and it's a thorny path. You have to see it through, and you have to get there. If you're struggling, that's exactly where you're supposed to be. The only difference is the person who gave up will never see the light, and the person who keeps going will one day get it. Some traders make it in 6 months, some traders make it in 20 years. But here's the thing, your life is what, 60, 50, 80 years, whatever your lifespan is, doesn't really matter when you achieve it. As long as you achieve it in this lifetime, that's all that matters. So, I mean, yeah, that's kind of like a really, I know it's a really deep one, but again, it goes back to like, hey, look, my son will one day watch this. And, when the time's right, when he does watch this, hopefully that advice will help him understand and become better. And as much as I like to laugh and joke and really enjoy life, I think these moments in time, there's probably one person that is really hitting deep and it's going to change their life, then my job is done. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what psychology advice.
Right.
I can give more if you want.
I love
It's
it.
up
I
to you.
love it. Um, Also, I I completely agree with the fact that I think as a guy you should have some long-term target, something you aspire to, something you go to. So for a lot of people, it's to make it in trading. Be a good trader. And while you have something you are going after, like it's pretty simple because okay, so everything is really aiming there, and this is my current goal in life. This is what I'm ultimately, trying to achieve. And,
Mm,
in this time, life is pretty simple because, okay, I have my this goal and I'm going after it. And exactly as you said, like once you achieve it, like there's this like sort of like emptiness, like okay, like for the
mm,
past years, I knew exactly what to do. I wanted to achieve this goal. Now that I've done it, like okay, well, what's next? I think I just listened to a podcast recently about the fact that this is exactly what the athletes face as well, right? Like the sort of like emptiness. Okay, well, my whole life was dedicated to this one thing, and
yeah.
and now I'm kind of lost. Like, what am I gonna do now? So
Mm,
I
mm.
absolutely understand that this is something that you might have felt when you really made it for the first time in trading.
Yeah, because that was basically, I got engaged, I bought my dream house, I got married, I bought my dream car, the E92 M3, which we were talking about. I did everything, literally everything. And then you get to a stillness after 6 months to 12 months enjoying it, and then you're kind of like, huh, like, am I gonna spend the rest of my 50 years now just chilling? Like, what am I gonna like? You know what I mean? Like, what am I gonna do? And then you start soul searching, and then you don't really enjoy much, and you're like, well, I'd rather just trade. And also your wavelength is very different from a lot of your friends you may have grew up with, and all that. Most people as well, you're very different from. So you then no longer fit in. So yeah, it's very challenging, but it's also something that is very necessary for one to self-develop and chase the wonders of the world and become that 1% of the 1% of the 1%. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think these are the issues, most of the viewers would, like to have because this is,
Yeah.
some of the issue that, okay, now I've made it. Like, that's a pretty pretty comfortable
Good
problem
problem to
to
have.
face, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
if you just rewind it back to the beginning, so we were talking about greediness, which I think again is probably the number one issue with trading, because you just want too much, you want to make your money quickly, and ultimately you're gonna over leverage yourself, you're gonna overexpose yourself, and that is just gonna lead you to blowing up the account.
Yeah.
What else do you think is really common among new traders?
I'll give one that's really relatable. And I think that, you know what, going back now to tie the first problem into the other problem, and I'll go into it. So my problem, and then I'll tie it. So my problem was, one of the biggest things was overtrading. And that overtrading actually, I had to think about, where did it stem from? And that stemmed from, like I said, there was that time I was giving back, or maybe doing things I shouldn't be doing, or breaking your trading rules, because that's what overtrading really is. It's just breaking your trading rules, being egotistical, trying to make that money, thinking you're right, and you're just like, oh no, I am right. Like, it works, and oh no, I just lost again. And it's not even about the trade anymore. It's just about your demons and you being right, and the money and the associations and the greed and everything. And the quick, inevitable answer to that, and that's why I said earlier about that and how this can tie into everything about enjoying the journey, is that as soon as you understand that the more you chase money, the more it runs away, it will come to you slowly and in time. The $5 was the reason I was able to make money over 3 months with the $5 mentality, is because I was chasing something that was within my means and was possible. So but there is at least $5 in the market, opportunity a day. I was going to say, look, I either lose $2.5 or make $5 a day. Like, stop. That is my parameter. Stop. If I stop, all I need is a 40%, 30% win rate, and I will make money. So therefore, if I just show up, do one or the other over 3 months, I will make money. And once you have your problem, like the overtrading and like the losses of whatever you're going through, overtrading was the biggest one for me, right? And that was because of the greed and the fear and the hunger, not having money, trying to get out, the desperateness of getting out of my situation, the desperateness of trying to be successful, the desperateness of, we laugh about it, but the good problem to have was the desperate to sit in that position. But also think back of what I just said, and everyone will accept this, is when you do sit in that position, so what? Like, there's no rush to sit in that position. Because if you make that at 20, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? I meet a lot of young entrepreneurs and then ended up killing it, enjoying their money. Then they get to 25, they have the same thing. So I'm not saying prolong it and never become successful. It's just that, like, hey, look, listen, your path is already set. The things you need to learn. The less you are trying to rush it, the faster it will come. Trading is the most contradicting thing in the world. It is the hardest thing. You are paid to be wrong. You are paid to be right. You are paid to just trade and do whatever it is. You just click a button and you make money. You're not saving lives. You're not building buildings. You're not doing anything. You learn a market. You learn this edge. And it's the less you do, the more you make. Like, that's already contradiction. But you have to put so much time in at the start to learn everything, and then you have to be able to pull off. You then also understand that losing money is also making money. Why? Because it's the part of your edge. Losing money is actually part of the process. Losing money is actually the part of the trade. Like, everyone has a system that loses a trade. That is contradicting too. I want to make money, but I have to lose money and also accept that I lose money. And losing money is part of the process. That makes no sense, but it does make sense. So once you kind of get over your head of this, and I could go on for years, and this is exactly what I mean about, like, like, overtrading was my problem. What is your problem? And I'll give everyone an action point after this as well. And after this explanation, is that, like, once you understand all of these little cogs and all of these little things, of course, what I said is, you can't manage what you don't measure, and you can't measure what you don't manage. All you are doing is this. Right now, you are unprofitable. So this scale here is heavier because you are overtrading, you have fear, you don't understand yourself, you're not journaling, the strategy might not have the right edge, you might need to fix up your technicals, not trade within news, just remove some eliminations. And then once that comes up, you slowly remove all of these, and then the scale of profitability with it, because guess what? You're doing more things that you are profitable than you are unprofitable. And that's when you tip the scale, because you are trading within your time zone, you understand your emotions, you're writing how you think, and you're writing what works, what doesn't work. You're doing more of what you're doing right and less of what you're doing wrong. And you're really figuring yourself out. And more importantly, you're not in a rush, and you're just finding all of these traits to make yourself successful. Does that make sense? So the final caveat of this action point is nothing will ever beat the traditional pen and paper. As you have your pen and paper, you are able just to write down your thoughts, get down your brain dump, and think to yourself, okay, what are the problems I have? What am I facing? Why am I facing them? And what can overcome that? For example, if I am in a rush to get money, why do I am in a rush to money? I want to retire my mum. Okay, is your mum capable right now? Yes or no? She is not capable. Okay, what do I need to do? Well, trading is not going to work tomorrow. So let me get 2 jobs and work 2 jobs to be able to financially support her as much as I can now, whilst making trading work on the side. Once I do that, that alleviates the pain of my mum not being able to work, and I can at least get the basics off the ground, right? Like the necessities done. Once that's done and trading starts to maybe replace one of those jobs, I can have more time back to maybe try and scale trading, maybe improve myself, spend more time with my mum, whatever it may be. But all of that stuff comes from writing it down and making it plain, and having your, the Napoleon Hill mentality is, if you have a desire, write it out and then have an actual action plan. So it's, it's from the Quran, it's from the Bible, it's from Napoleon Hill, it's from everything. You just have to write it down and make it plain, and you will achieve it. But you just have to keep brainstorming, keep failing, keep understanding, and then tip again the iceberg of, in this case, profitability. So you're more doing things more profitable than you are unprofitable, and you will make it. And I just banged my lovely watch.
Right,
Okay,
man.
so
I really would like to emphasize on writing things down, because by writing things down, you really give them like a weight, right? You really give it a seriousness, instead of just, having a couple of thoughts that will, go through your mind. You might feel like thinking about it this and now, but really, if you write it down, you really, put it on the paper, you really make it physical, and that's what really is then possible to make a change for you. So the pen and
yeah,
paper, man, I'm all up for it. I agree
yeah.
100%.
Just a final thing on that as well. One thing about the pen and paper is, think about it like this: it's a contract from yourself to yourself.
That's a good point. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, you sign it.
Well. Okay. So, well, unless if you don't sign it, then it's fine, and that's not a contract then.
Yeah, it's over.
All right. So the moral of the story: always sign your notes, and it's gonna it's gonna
It's a
be
good idea.
it's gonna be better for you. All
Have it
right.
solidified.
Well, Dan, thank you for making time to be with us today. I really, really like the interview. I think we've shared tons of good insights that can really, really help out lots of people out there. Before we say goodbye, if there's anything you want to say, if you want to give out any shout out, if you want to give an advice to anyone, anything you want to say before we finish, now's your time.
I guess, chances like, I guess I'll finish off with a bit of motivation. I guess I just guess the only thing stopping you from achieving it is the thoughts that are inside your head. One of the coolest things in life is that as humans we have imagination, and through these imaginations we're able to visualize and see things. Everyone sees things differently, everyone's watching this podcast differently, everyone's in a different position of life. If you can see, like, this trading dream that you have, or whatever dream it is, you're trading in this scenario, and if you want to be a profitable trader of FTMO, get a 6-figure, 7-figure, whatever it is, there is a reason. And I wish more people understood this, and I'm using this time now to tell you, is you were given that for a reason. That vision is very specific for you. If I say think of an apple, go. Someone's thinking of a red apple, someone's thinking of a green apple, someone's thinking of a pink. But the point is, you thought of a specific one because of the conditions of the things that you thought of. So if you believe you are profitable, don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. If you believe you're going to be successful and you want to have a nice car, or any of these materialistic things are great, but when you get there, you'll figure other things out. But the point is, if you have your vision of this family, this lifestyle, this trade, whatever it is, as long as it's ethical and it serves the world and you are not doing any harm, chase it with all of your means. Don't ever give up. Be realistic, but also delusionally optimistic, and find the fine line, and never look back.
And that's FTMO. And there we go. Thanks to Daniel again for being here with us today. I hope there's something you can take away from his advice. Trade safe, everyone, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.